Hey guys, Kara from Health, Home, and Happiness here. Back to give you just a little update about how Carnivore is working for me, that I went off and why I went back on, and how it's just really simple. It's just kind of now it's our default go-to. If I don't know what to make for dinner, I just make a pile of meat. So anyways, you guys have seen my other Carnivore videos here. I'll link them down below in case you wanted to watch my whole Carnivore playlist. Like feels like it wasn't that long ago, but it was like 3 or 4 years ago. I tried the Carnivore diet just as a experiment, thinking I was gonna hate it. I ended up loving it. I used it primarily for mental health. And then since then I've had something else that has also worked for mental health. And so that's why I ended up going off, is I just like, other food is good. So I was eating ice cream. I was eating like rice with the kids. I just like kind of fell back into the pattern of mostly still gluten-free because that felt better. I have cut out alcohol completely since like some of my past videos for you, which I'll link to a whole article on why I did that. Before, I just didn't keep alcohol in the house and I would just drink like occasionally when I went out, and I've just found that I am so much happier without alcohol, and that it really does affect my sleep. It affects how I feel for a whole week, even if I just drink like one drink when I go out. So I have cut that out since then. And yeah, I took a break from Carnivore. I lost all of the weight that I had gained from pregnancy, doing 75 hard when the baby was like less than a year. And now she's over 2, and I've gained most of that, not most of the weight, but I've gained a lot of that weight back. And so 6 weeks ago, I decided, you know what, you feel good on Carnivore. It gives you more energy. It's super simple. There's lots of stuff that I've been doing that's not food related, just for fun. Like I'm picking up a bunch of hobbies like gardening and sewing the kids' clothes and just like doing stuff with my kids who are now older. And so yeah, 6 weeks ago, I went back on Carnivore, and once again, I absolutely love it. And the weight's coming off. I feel good. I have more energy. It's super easy to not fuss about food. So these past 3 years that I was off Carnivore, we continue to eat meat heavy. I've always just had that subscription to ButcherBox coming, and it just comes, and so we always have meat in our house. And I'll link down below to an article on how I do my ButcherBox, so I kind of get the most meat out of it, using their promotions and using coupon codes and using different stuff that's higher quality from ButcherBox than what I can get in the store or even from local ranchers. I paused ButcherBox for a little bit and tried a local ranch, and I don't know what they fed their cows, and they weren't very forthcoming about it. And the meat just wasn't good. It was like gristly, and it was really fatty. Like I like fatty meat, but it was really fatty, and it just like, it didn't taste good. I'm used to grass-fed high quality beef, and so that's where we've stayed. So we're still using ButcherBox. I've always had that coming. We've always eaten meat heavy. I've kept my oldest child. She's on keto. She's low carb for special needs. And I've kept her meat heavy. She's been doing great ever since we've been meat heavy, which has pretty much been since I found the Carnivore diet and I found how well it works for us. She's doing great on that. And then I've kind of gone off and on keto, and I feel better on Carnivore. I have more energy. I'm in a better mood and all of that. So yeah, it's working for me. So I'm back on. I'm not sure how many recipes I'm gonna have for you, just because most of the time I just like make a steak. And so I'll make a steak and I make those truffles, which I'll link to those down below in case you want the recipe for that. I know I have a video on that already. And a lot of times I just eat the truffles with like Applegate turkey. And sometimes I'll put ranch dressing on, which I make with both partially avocado oil mayonnaise and partially baconaise. So I usually just make mayonnaise with like half avocado oil, and then I add in a bunch of melted bacon grease. Then make that into ranch dressing. And then I just make a steak, or I make a roast for all of us, and it's just incredibly simple. But the one thing that I have done since last summer, and it totally made my summer, because we'd come home from like a day out at the lake, or we'd come home from fishing, or even when we went camping, is I started canning food. And most of what I can is meat. And so we'd come home, or we'd go camping, like we went out to a Forest Service cabin with no electricity, or we went tent camping, and I used canned food. And canning meat is so easy, and you guys are gonna love it because it's so easy to travel with. Well, probably not air travel, but if you're like need to pack for like a substantial amount of time, a big, like a quart jar, and I'm gonna start doing a few videos on this for you guys because it's so awesome. A quart jar of meat is 2 pounds. So like 2 pounds of ground beef goes into a quart jar pretty much perfectly. And so that's like, all we have to do is open up one of those, and like the kids eat vegetables or fruit. And so I'll can the fruit and vegetables in pint jars. And so like 2 pounds of meat, or depending on how much my 14-year-old's eating at the time, he's big, he's taller than me now. I'll have another video about that too, because people were wondering how this would go. And I can tell you what I do and like what I'm, I guess, a little uptight about with them, and what I really let go and I just don't care, because he does eat a lot of nutrient dense food and he's growing and he's healthy. So anyways, I'll do another video more on how I feed my kids, just kind of an update for that, because I do have some older videos on that coming up. But anyways, when like we'd go camping and I just open up this meat, and you can season it like with taco seasoning, or my 9-year-old's favorite is when I do chicken, I just cut up chicken thighs and brown them, and I put them in with some coconut aminos and like ginger and garlic, and it's so good because the sauce goes all the way into the chicken. But it's so easy when you're traveling, and it's easy also, like you wouldn't think it's hard to thaw meat and just like pop it on the stove, which really it's not that hard to do that. But when you walk in the door, if you have your meat already canned and prepared and seasoned and everything, you can like, you just walk in the door and like you seriously dump out a can of this into a pan, heat it, and then you're serving dinner. A lot of times I'll just put the veggies or the fruit with a fork in it on the table, serve the meat hot, and we're ready to eat in like 10 minutes. Like it's so fast. And then what I love about it is because it's canned in glass, and I control the quality of the meat. I control the salt that we use, and there's no BPA like from the lining, and also it's saving me a ton of money. That's, I guess, my only cooking, like it's supposedly cooking, my cooking update for what I've been doing lately. It's just been so simple because I've been really getting into gardening. Like I learned, and I can go on, and I'll probably do another video, even though I'm not sure anyone's going to be interested, but I'll do another video on gardening because it's super interesting once you learn that essentially the soil that you're growing is like your gut health. So it's like doing little science experiments out in the yard. And I don't have a big yard, but watching the changes of different ways of taking care of your soil naturally and with like historical methods, and it's really not labor intensive at all. And it feels good to get out in the sun and get moving. And mostly, what do I grow? I mostly grow flowers because I think they're beautiful. And so it's more of a family project, like a hobby, than it is that I'm farming my small little suburban yard. But I've really been enjoying doing it, and it's really fun to do it with the kids. We planted some trees. We're like learning about permaculture principles and no dig principles, because it really all relates back to like do less, stop messing with stuff, stop adding artificial stuff. Just like our gut health and our body's health, it's like the less you do and the more you just leave it alone to not, and don't mess with it, and provide the very little things that it needs, which when it comes to plants is mostly sunshine. So if you support plants in their ability to photosynthesize, then they make healthy plants. I finally got an air fryer, and so a lot of times I'll just pop a steak in the air fryer, or if it's warm enough. Like we had a cold winter. We got down to -30 a couple times this winter. It's been cold. So if it's warm enough, then the kids grill. Like it's just becoming incredibly simple. I get the pre-made burgers from Butcher Box, and a lot of times, one day a week, my oldest will do taco meat that she gets from the can that I do. I have it pre-canned for her. And she does, and she like shreds the cheese and does whatever condiments they want for tacos. Another day a week, my 9-year-old will grill burgers for everyone, and just cheeseburgers, and then they eat those with homemade pickles. And it's just incredibly simple. I'm loving it. I'm loving the energy. I'm loving that my kids are healthy and they're growing well and everything's good. I did get an air fryer, which I've also been loving. I finally, like, I kind of get obsessed with a little, like, an appliance for a while, and it lives out on my counter. I did finally put it down below because it's more into grilling season, which is nice because it keeps everything outside. Oh, and another, like, especially this winter when it was cold, is I did a lot of the canning when it was cold because it just kind of feels good to be in the kitchen and heating things up and smelling things cooking. And then I'd also make a few keto lasagnas. So I still do that. Definitely heavy on the meat. Sometimes I'll switch it up and just do pesto instead of meat sauce or instead of red sauce, because I do think that that's probably a little bit better for us. And so that's really when I've been wanting to cook, I've been doing that. And another thing that I do pretty frequently when I want to cook and I just feel like puttering around in the kitchen is either I can up some meat, just either when a butcher box comes and I have a bunch of that, or I'll go to Costco and get they have grass-fed 4-pound packages of beef at a time, or their organic chicken I get from Costco a lot too. Is I'll just stand there and enjoy like processing my meat, knowing that another day when I don't feel like cooking, it's gonna be all ready for me when I come in the door and just want to dump it in a pan and we're eating in a few minutes. So that's kind of been my food update. I do still take a multivitamin with iron. I do find that helps me. I do still put a little bit of lemon juice in some of my water most days that I remember. And I know that meat provides everything we need, but the problem is if we've had a history of bad gut flora for whatever reason, or we had a history of other things going haywire in our body, we might not be absorbing at all. And so it's not what you eat, it's what you're absorbing. So I still feel better when I take a multivitamin with iron, and then I also add a little bit of vitamin C because I notice that I start getting bruises from just like bruising really easily when I don't. And so it's not saying that carnivore is wrong or I don't like carnivore. I love carnivore. I feel great on it, but I do know my body and I know I do best when I do this. And then we've all been enjoying the Element little packets of salt, the flavored salt. There's a little bit of stevia in them, there's a little bit of flavor in them, and it has electrolytes, and it's just so easy. Like, I know how to add electrolytes, and I know how to take it without the packets, but we just enjoy it. It tastes like Gatorade. That I approve of, and my kids like it, and so it's nice to be able to give that to them. Because everything has really gotten expensive, like everything has gotten expensive. A lot of like the staple foods that I've bought, thankfully not butcher box, but a lot of the staple stuff that I've bought for the kids, and I have 4 kids, has literally doubled in price. And even like their clothes and their shoes and stuff, everything seems to be more expensive. So I kind of got on this historical fiction kick. And I got really inspired by, which I'll link below. I did a sort of a book review of it's like 10 of the books that I've read recently, which normally I'm not reading, I'm actually listening on Audible or the app that comes for free with our library to these books. But I got super inspired because everything is so expensive. But then I've been listening to these historical fiction books of like people growing up in real poverty, like the Dust Bowl, like people patching things together without indoor plumbing and like saving their lives. And I've been super inspired by them. I can see where not everyone would love these books because they can be a lot bit depressing. But for me, I've been super inspired, and I've been, that's what sparked my new canning hobby, my gardening hobby. And then I've been sewing clothes, and it is super fun. I've always sewed quilts, but I've never sewn clothes before. And it actually, especially for my little one, but it's actually saving quite a bit of money, especially for my little one, because I can really make her clothes fit her, so she doesn't just grow out of one part of the clothes quickly and we have to replace every 6 months. Like the stuff that I make has been lasting a long time. And I can get a lot of little toddler clothes out of 1 yard of fabric. And so that's been a lot of fun. I'm gonna do another video on that. I'll show you some of the stuff. These prints are from knitfabric.com. I'll leave a link down below. But this is just like a little watermelon shirt. I made a bigger one out of all watermelon. Hannah picked out that fabric for Hannah. And then I made this just out of the scraps for my little one, Abigail. She's my little one. And this is her ladybug shirt. And it's so fun. And it's a great way to get off the phone and have something to do with your hands. Because I can listen to an audiobook while I sew, but I can't I can't scroll, and it's easy to get sucked into that. And I want my kids to see me doing hobbies that are like active and creative and like kind of stimulating your mind. I want them to see that instead of forever being on electronics. I do have pants, it's just most of our pants are in the wash right now. But here's one little bit. Little leggings. Super simple cooking that's meat-based gives me the energy to do that, and I'm super enjoying it. So I'm looking forward to being back with you this spring, and I will talk to you later.